Well, hello and welcome to The Scene Live, the show where we dig into what it takes to build a business you're proud of and be seen for the work that you do. I'm your host, Kim Speed. I'm a brand clarity coach and founder of Purple Moon Creative. And every week I sit down with an entrepreneur who has something real to share. Not the highlight reel, but the actual lessons from building something from the ground up. So before we dive in, if conversations like this are useful to you, hit subscribe and give the video a like. It helps more entrepreneurs find the show and tells me you want more of this every week. And today's conversation is one a lot of you have been waiting for, whether you know it or not. So my my guest has spent more than 30 years inside businesses of every size, from solo entrepreneurs to global enterprises. And she is here to talk about something that stings a little. Why a website can look great, but still not bring in a single client. So today, Rachel Jenkins who is the founder of Redking Studio, where she helps coaches, consultants, and entrepreneurs build brands and digital conversion engines that help them to turn their leads into sales. Rachel has spent over 3 decades working across marketing strategy, technology, and has always had one goal: business growth. From design of the business to building out its digital ecosystem to shaping operational strategy, her breadth and depth let her fully understand what a founder needs and translate it into an online presence with the strength to grab attention and convert. The results of her clients for her clients is more consistent leads, sales calls that close rather than stall, and better fit clients who make the business more profitable and work easier. So please help me welcome to the stage and the scene live, Rachel Jenkins. Hi, Rachel. How are you?
Hi, Kim. I'm great, thanks. Really great to be here. How are you?
I'm well. And thank you so much for being here. First off, I have to say I'm like so honored that you're here, because it's not only is it late for you, but it's also not long after I just chatted with you and you had a serious accident. And the last time I talked to you, you couldn't even use either arm.
Yeah.
Give us a quick update tell us that you're okay.
Yes, I'm much better, thank you. It was pretty serious, but I'm recovering very well. I'm pleased with the speed of the recovery. So I feel like I'm almost back to normal. So getting there.
That is good, because I know it was quite serious, and it's wonderful that you're spending your time and sharing with my community your knowledge. So, Rachel, I always like to start at the beginning. So, on the scene live, we want to know how you spent 3 decades working across marketing, strategy, and technology, and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, so it's actually quite a strangled path. That's the best way to describe it, because I actually started out of school when I left school when I was 16. And I started in a kind of low entry level job, and I got bored super quick and actually started picking apart Access databases to understand how they work, just because I was curious about them. And that's how my tech career started. So from there, I kind of got into an apprenticeship, and I spent about 12 years in technology, designing back end and front end systems, and working with clients to understand what they needed in the software. But from there, it kind of went a bit, strangled is the only way I can describe it, because I moved into product and I moved into operations, I moved into marketing, but none of it was linear. It was all like kind of in and out. And, for many years, I actually thought that I was just floundering my way through business, and I didn't really know what I was trying to do.
Right.
And it was quite a difficult journey a lot of the time, because I honestly thought that I didn't have a direction and I was just going with the flow, and that kind of upset me a lot. But what I realized is that every move I made, even if it felt like it was going backwards, because I kind of went back into tech for a while as well,
Right.
every move actually was reinforcing the knowledge. And I realized that I did have a thread throughout it all, and that was business growth. So I worked from like with tiny startups. In fact, my first business was when I was 18, designing websites. But
Oh,
back
your
then it
own
wasn't,
business. Your own
yeah,
business.
my own business. I started when I was 18. I can still remember the name of it as well. It was weird. But it was designing websites purely from a tech perspective. At that time, I wasn't really great with design. I didn't know what branding was about. It was just about the technology of it and kind of the back end of it.
Yeah.
And so like I just realized, and it's actually quite a recent revelation for me, is that that kind of winding path was actually creating my breadth and depth, right? It wasn't
Yeah.
just a strangled, oh, I don't know where I'm going. It actually was leading to something.
Yeah.
Um, and
It
even
was
like when I
giving you
started,
everything you needed
it was
without
exactly,
you
yeah. And
knowing.
yeah, yeah, and having that exposure into large global enterprises as well. You know, I've seen what it's like to run big teams,
Mhm.
and that all kind of helped me in my own entrepreneurial journey, which kind of weaved throughout it all. So yeah, I got to the point where it kind of felt a bit serendipitous, especially when my current business, Redking Studio, was born, because it
Yeah.
kind of felt like a culmination of it all. So
Well, and interesting because so you've worked with, well, you started off with your own business, but you've worked with lots of people as team members.
mhm.
Um, and you had, a while ago, you had your own business in a different sector,
Yeah,
but you recently developed Red King Studio.
yeah.
And what parts of you were drawn to building this new business?
Well, one of the businesses I had was a coaching business, and I set out to be a kind of leadership coach at the
Yeah,
time, and that was 12 years ago. I started that, and I did that for many years, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. But I always felt like something was missing. I kind of couldn't put my finger on what it was.
hmm,
And I did a lot of self exploration, and then realized that I, you know, and that was part of the journey I mentioned earlier as well, is that I hadn't really fully realized my breadth.
right.
And I was thought, oh, I had to be this tech person, or I had to be this coach, or I had to be this product person, or this marketing person. And only when I realized that the breadth was a real thing, and it was a valuable thing, I then had, it felt like an epiphany that I could bring all of this together in Redking Studio, because it brings together the coaching in helping a coach. I specifically work with coaches and consultants as well, because I spent so many years building my own coaching business, and the coaching helps me draw out the brand of a coach without them
Yeah,
really knowing what they're doing. So, that even part of that can be like an identity crisis, that they don't really know where they're going or who they are as a coach. And so that
yes.
helps me build out the brand, but also my design, my marketing, my tech skills, my operation skills. It all kind of comes together under that same umbrella of Red King.
I love that. It's so nice that you're able to do all the things that you're good at, but that you also love doing.
Yeah,
You love working with people, but it gets that creative side of you. It enables you to be creative as well. Uh,
exactly.
I think it's such a great fit. But I just wanted to talk for a minute because so many of um, the people that I work with as well, when I started doing branding, I thought that it was all, it's all about the creative. It's all about,
Mm.
you know, what it looks like and, some words.
Yeah,
And it's really amazing what I went through to understand, especially as I started to work with a small business owner. And I'm sure that's kind of what you were saying too, is like so many of them come to you and they don't know what to say about
yeah,
themselves. And it
yeah,
is like, having you as a coach, was probably more important than building the brand in the beginning. And now you're bringing it all together.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. So Redking Studio, tell us a little bit about, the name, because I thought that was really interesting. How did you come up with that?
Well, its roots are in Lewis's Carol Through the Looking Glass, where the character, the Red King, is proposed as the person who is dreaming up Alice. So there's a little bit of kind of creative literature reference in there. So I wanted a brand that was very strong and memorable, but it was also a little bit of kind of like imagination and wonder in there.
Yeah, I love that. I love hearing how people come up with their names, and especially when it's something a little creative. So thanks for sharing that. So I wanted to ask you, going back to the type of clients that you serve, as well
Mhm.
as the people in this community, which are coaches and consultants and entrepreneurs. What do you think, or why do you think so many of them genuinely who are, very smart and are experts at what they do,
Mm.
how how do you see them underselling themselves, especially with their branding?
Yeah, because coaches and consultants and even some agencies, it's slightly an unusual business because they're not selling a product, they're selling themselves.
Yeah,
Especially if you're a solo coach, right, or solo
yeah,
entrepreneur, the person is the offer. And
yeah,
that makes the brand and the identity alignment more critical than in almost any business. So if you think about Apple, for example, I always like to use Apple because so many people say a brand name should be descriptive, and I'm like, no, it shouldn't. Like the biggest brands in the world are abstract, right? And
yeah,
if you think about Apple, and like an iPhone, for example, it's really easy to sell the product because it is what it is, and you see it, and you can understand it. But when you're selling coaching or consulting, it's much harder because you have to be clear and authentic about who you are, and your brand has to reflect that, and it also has to reflect your values.
yeah,
And with coaches and consultants, that's very often the thing that they're unsure about the most. You know, a lot of coaches get into coaching because they want to help people, but they don't really do the depth of kind of analysis of themselves up front about why they want to help or who they want to help. And they often have that kind of fear and self-belief about their service.
yeah,
And that gets in the way of being able to see what their brand should be.
yeah,
And also, crucially, very often that they don't actually have a marketing or technical background. And they very often misattribute the real cause of kind of slow, like say, lead generation. Um, and so when they think something isn't working, they'll think, oh, my content isn't working, it's not converting, or my offer isn't right, when actually it's more fundamental than that. It's because their brand isn't in alignment with them and their offer, because their offer is them.
yeah, yeah. Oh, you know that you're preaching to the choir here. I am so on board with what you're saying. And so many clients, they want to help the other person, but they never think about themselves. It's kind of like that, when you're on the airplane, you got to give the oxygen to yourself first,
Yeah,
um,
exactly.
before you can help somebody else.
Yeah.
And I love that what you said about, um, you know, who do they help? Do you find that so many of these people have a really hard time to decide who they help, or struggle to say that they help one particular group over another?
Yeah. And I kind of feel like a bit of a broken record sometimes when I talk about this, and it's not, I'm not the only marketing person that talks about this either, because the understanding of your ICP, your ideal client persona, is crucial to how you show up in your content. And a lot of people think that they can't niche down, that because they're turning away too many clients, when in actual fact, the niching down is the most critical thing. And it doesn't mean that you're going to repel all of these other people. It just means that you're clear about who you're talking to.
Yeah.
And this is where the identity work comes in as well for coaches and consultants, that if they're not clear on their own identity and what they bring, it's actually really hard to even define what your ICP should be.
Yeah. And I have to ask you this because I know even when I was building my own brand, it was so much easier and to see somebody else's expertise and what they should be doing and help them to, peel back the layers and, bring out that gem inside.
Mm-hmm.
Where I know that it's not easy because I found it, tricky even for myself. And sometimes it really takes somebody to banter with and talk
Yeah,
with. Do you think so? Did you?
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's more than that as well. You don't see things sometimes because you're too close to them. That's one of the
yeah,
powers of coaching, right? It's and like this is part of my own story, my own journey, is like I didn't even realize that all of my jumps in all of these different disciplines was actually adding value. I actually thought I thought for years I thought there was something wrong with me. I thought, like, why can't I stick to a discipline? Why can't I just do this, right?
yeah,
And very often coaches are, are along a similar path where they don't really appreciate their full strength and their full value, and so you need somebody to be able to hold that mirror up to you and go, this is what you do. I can see
yeah,
what you do.
yeah.
I understand what you're trying to do as well. And it's very hard if you're doing that on your own to kind of articulate that and see it fully.
It's almost like you need validation, um, and it's very hard to self promote for most people. I would
Yeah,
say.
it
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And this is again what I was saying earlier about when you're a coach or consultant, especially a solo one, you are selling yourself. And
yeah,
therefore it's all about self-promotion.
yeah, yeah.
And ironically with coaches as well, that's very often the thing they're worst at because they're all always focused on the other person.
Yes, yes. I so agree. And I'd love to jump into, okay, so when somebody kind of figures out, or not kind of, that works with you and goes through the initial understanding of who they are and who they are going to serve, how do you then build that into a digital conversion engine? It's not, I know that I love what you say. It's not just a website because
Mm.
it can be so much more for you. So I'd love to jump into, understanding a bit more of that.
Yeah, I call it an ecosystem. And one of the things that I'm really passionate about is that when we talk about our digital presence, very often you'll get an agency or a supplier who says, right, here's your website and here's how it should look, and it can be beautiful,
Yeah.
but it can literally sit on a shelf and do nothing, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes you get the other end of the scale where people say, right, here's your conversion engine and this is how it all works. But one of the things I'm very passionate about is that I don't think that a brand should be one or the other. I think that it can and should be both. It should have beauty and brains. And with Redking, it's about building that ecosystem, but it's building it upon a really strong and striking brand. And that whole ecosystem is the website. It's a way to attract leads. It's a way to like, so for example, if you have like a quiz or a lead magnet, some people call them lead magnets on your website. So it's a way to bring in those leads, but also then it's the whole system around that on how to convert those leads, right? And that can be any number of things like email marketing or content. But it is really crucial that everything works as an ecosystem. And a lot of coaches and consultants struggle with that because it's very technical and sometimes it's very overwhelming because every element has to work together and kind of click in at the right time, and it all has to be built seamlessly. But with Redking, we do it and make sure it's also beautiful at the same time. So it's not It's not just a brochure website. Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
And that I totally agree, because even some of the people that I've worked with, like they either are focused on what it looks like, or there's those people that, they don't care as long as it's got, the right, you know, technical pieces, and it's reaching people. And both have merit, I believe, too. But it's a wonderful thing to have somebody that can actually bring those two things together. And I have to say, it has been changing over time. There's been so many developments. And speaking of developments and technology, I'd love to get your opinion on using AI, or how you incorporate it into your business.
I am very, very picky about how I use AI. Extremely picky. I think I'm not going to be really honest here, and this is probably going to be quite controversial. I honestly believe it's getting more and more. It's hallucinating more and more these days. I
Mm.
think it's rare to, like, especially if you use it just with like Chat GPT or any of those kind of like conversation bots. Um, the amount of times it gets something wrong is actually astonishing for me, and it seems to be growing rather than getting better. So I use it very, very deliberately and very picky. Sometimes I'll build it into a conversion engine, so that people can have it as like a bot on their website. So it's like a
Yeah,
customer service bot, and it can communicate, but it has to be taught very, very specifically. The
yeah.
one place I am a big fan of using it is with GEO. And I have a
Mm.
really good partner that I use who is a GEO specialist, and that's all about constantly updating the website so it has a really, really robust set of FAQs behind it, so
Yeah.
that AI can't hallucinate. It's got too much information about your business to draw on. And
Oh, I
so,
didn't even think of that, but that's a really great point. So having the information on your website, so that a SEO and AEO and GEO are pulling from that information and giving it what
yeah,
it needs, instead of letting it have the opportunity to make
yeah.
it up, because it wants to give answers, right?
Exactly, exactly. And there's so much information in the back. We put it in the back end of a website for a reason, right? Because on a normal FAQ page, it has to be easily digestible by the reader. But the
Right.
amount of information you want on an FAQ page for an AI scraper is
Yeah.
huge, because literally you want it to have as much information as you can. So actually, it's not even put in a way that's visible to the user. It's in the back end. So AI has it, and they can't hallucinate. And anybody trying to find the services that you provide will find you, but tell the right information about your business.
And that goes back to making sure that you understand the information it needs to have, which means
Yes.
that you need to understand what you do, who you serve. And, when you have those answers, then people like Rachel can actually, take that content and work with their other partners and build something that actually works. But if you don't have the information in the front end, then it all falls to pieces. So I love how this came full circle.
Yeah, yeah. Because if you think about it, think about it from a normal FAQ page, you answer questions on your website that your ICP is going to want to ask, right? So you have to know who your ICP is and the questions they're kind of going to ask. And so if
Yeah,
you're trying to build that out from a GEO perspective, that's, let's say, 10 times more than you would have on a normal FAQ page, probably more than that. So
you know
the
what?
detail that you have to know.
I just want to clarify first. You and I are speaking of terms that maybe people don't know, so maybe we should explain. I'm just thinking maybe somebody doesn't know what GEO is.
Okay, yes, it's generative engine optimization, and it's a bit like SEO, which is search engine optimization. So it's literally with SEO, it would be used by the likes of a traditional Google search, and it kind of scrapes your website for the information it needs. But with GEO, generative engine optimization, is literally designed so that AI tools can find the information.
So I call it AEO. Is it the same thing?
It's related, but it's not exactly the same.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And that's what just triggered me to think, oh, are we talking the same language? But yes. So sorry to have cut you off, but I thought all of a sudden, what if people don't understand this? But interesting though, that you can actually put the information into your website, so it's not like on the page cluttering everything up. Remember, or I remember there was a time when you would be penalized for that.
Yeah.
So things change.
Yeah, technology always needs to keep up. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why it's so important to have, some of these experts working with you on your business, because it's so hard to keep up. And if you are an expert at a service, or, an authority in your industry, and you're helping to service people, you can't be expected to know all the marketing expertise. And that's why it's really important to use people like Rachel and her Redking Studio. When a business finally gets its brand and online presence right, Rachel, what actually changes for them day to day?
Quite a lot, actually. So usually what you'll find is, if they don't have their digital ecosystem in place, that they're kind of chasing leads, and the pipeline, so the stages of a lead through the life cycle of becoming a cold lead to a hot lead and a client, usually it's really slow, and so leads kind of trickle in. They might be doing sales calls, but then they're not converting, and the conversations kind of stall, and they end up having to take clients who aren't an ideal fit, because out of necessity, right? They still need to generate income, and so if they're getting a slow supply of leads, and what I call low quality leads, through, then they end up at the delivery end taking clients that they actually don't like to work with, right? They might be very needy, they might just be the wrong energy, they might not pay on time, could be any number of reasons, right? So that the stress level is usually heightened, and they're always dreading the client calls, and then they're also doing a lot more marketing than they need to be doing. But when the whole thing's working together as an ecosystem, and the brand is clear and strong and bold, then that kind of changes completely, right? When the client is a good fit, everything feels easier, it's all more enjoyable. The leads come in at a kind of steady pace, so they generate more revenue, and also the sales cycle is shorter, so the sales calls actually convert, and they can convert quite quickly as well, because the brand is doing all the heavy lifting up front. So it changes from being a kind of really stressful and probably low income situation, to the impact on the bottom line being quite dramatic, but also crucially, and part of the stuff that I love, which is a kind of hidden thing in kind of marketing, is the impact on the well-being of the coach, because it's kind of life-changing, because all of a sudden they have a business they're proud of. They're proud to show people their website, they're proud to talk about it, and they're proud of their clients' results as well, because they're actually enjoying showing up.
Oh, that's wonderful. And it's one of those things that people don't understand the true value of. And in any business, you need to set up your systems and your processes to be able to work properly. And this is really one of the things that's really important, and can take a lot of pressure off of you. When you have all your, as I always say, when you have your ducks in a row, and you have them displayed properly for people to see, the right people, you start to attract the right people.
Exactly.
Yeah, as you said, things get so much better.
Yeah.
So if somebody was suspecting that maybe their online presence was not doing them well, maybe it's underselling them. Um, where would you say the first place they should look at fixing?
Um, Honestly, their identity, who they are and who they're trying to be, and if they're being honest about their value. And as I say,
Yeah,
it's usually that they're underselling themselves internally as well to themselves.
yeah.
So I worked with somebody recently who markets herself as a health coach, and I had a very, well, it wasn't a short session, but it was only one. It was one like 90-minute session, I think, and it was completely apparent to me that she actually um, wanted to be doing speaking and speaking
Mm,
on the topic of health coaching, and so that was a whole different brand and a whole different beast.
yeah.
But before that, she hadn't really brought that out front and center, that need, that she wanted to do that, and she was kind of like, I just want to do this kind of health coaching.
So something was suppressing and she wasn't able to articulate what she
Yeah,
wanted. Or she couldn't
yeah,
figure it out herself without some guidance and some help. And that's where I go back to, it's still so important to have somebody to work with, and somebody that understands the process, that can get what is the best of you out. Um,
yeah, yeah.
that's
And also, yeah, also somebody who has kind of been on that journey themselves, where they don't fully understand who they are and what they're trying to do with their business.
yeah,
Especially as a solo entrepreneur, the two are intrinsically linked. The success of a business as a solo entrepreneur is
yeah.
directly tied to who you are as a person.
Yeah. You're the one that people are dealing with. You're the one that people want to see and understand, and what got you into this. Like, and that's why I love bringing people on and hearing their story, because it's so important for other people to hear that too. And having these conversations just lets, it's so interesting how the story just, rolls. But if you were to tell somebody to write it down, then they a lot of times will struggle.
Yeah, yeah.
So I would love to ask you, what would you like to be doing more in your business now? Is there something that you see Red King Studios expanding into, or is there
Mm.
something else that you want to start?
Um, I mean, yes and no. I do want to focus on the brand development and the digital ecosystem for people for now. But that being said, I don't necessarily have to do the whole journey with people. So
Yeah,
somebody if somebody is really clear about their identity as a coach and what they want the brand to be, then we can absolutely pick that up and then just build out their ecosystem. We don't have to necessarily do the kind of brand identity work. So that's my focus at the moment, is helping people build out that engine. Um, One thing I would like to get into a little bit, but it's not just me. I've got a business partner who does music and video production.
oh,
His background is actually music. He's a musician and has been doing music, and he's like done a lot of live gigs, and he was a session musician for a long time. But he does a lot of kind of production as well, and so I would like to bring some of that into the business at some point. Even though a lot of coaches and consultants at the moment that I work with don't necessarily need or want that,
right.
but I would like to bring that into some of the content that we do, so it's kind of more unique and cinematic. So, and no, there's no AI music in any of the stuff that he does. It's all done by hand himself.
Oh, that sounds fascinating. And I've talked to a few people. I've talked to a voice coach and a musician and a podcasting coach and speakers. And a lot of people are talking more and more about how your brand sounds. So maybe that's going to, just develop into something, and it'll come naturally for you.
Yeah,
For you
interesting.
both.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exciting. I haven't heard that actually.
No, oh, I've just recently talked about it a few times with people, and I think it is one of those things that could make you a little more unique if you had a
Mm,
sound. If you, um, yeah, like just we talked about, even like, you think about movies like Jaws, just that little
yeah,
sound, right? And people know right away. So
yeah.
do people with brands have a sound, and it's
Mm.
just another sensory, right?
Yeah, excellent. I love that because yeah, I mean everybody is a different
Yeah.
system that they prefer. Some people are more auditory, some people are more kinesthetic, some people
Yeah.
are more visual.
Yeah.
But what I like to do with Red King is, even though I'm all about having a very strong and bold brand, it's not a purely visual thing. It's about how that feels. So you'll notice, like on if you look at my website, for example, Redking Studio, you'll notice there's a lot of kind of like moving vectors, moving graphics, or
Mhm.
highlights and like kind of animation on it, really subtly, but it just
Yeah.
brings a texture to it, which actually speaks to the more kinesthetic person as well. So I
Yes.
love what
Yeah.
you're telling me about that's becoming more of a thing. So I'll definitely have to
Yeah.
explore that.
Yeah. Definitely something to think about. And I can see that evolving in your studio.
Yeah.
Um, But I have really appreciated you coming and sharing with us and chatting about branding. I love talking a good brand story, and especially with entrepreneurs and solopreneurs. So I thank you so much. But Rachel, where can people find you, and get in touch with you?
The best way is on my website on the contact page. There's a direct link to WhatsApp. So people can talk to me immediately and I'll be there and highly responsive. I like to keep it like that. So, yeah, the more responsive and personal I can be, the better. So that's the best way to do that. On the contact page, you will also find my email, though, if you don't want to WhatsApp me. And you'll find the social links at the bottom of the page.
So it sounds like go to Rachel's website at redkingstudio.com, and you'll find all of the ways to connect with her. You'll find some of her great work there. Um, have a look around, nosy around, see what it's like, get to know Rachel, and connect with her, because she has so much information. And don't we all want to grow our businesses without a lot of stress? I loved what you said about that. Less stress, more great clients. Anyways, thank you so much, Rachel. I really
Thank you,
appreciate
Kim.
you joining us and sharing your knowledge with us. And thank you so much for coming late. And I'm so glad you're on the mend.
Thank you very much, Kim. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right. So we'll see you next time, everybody, on The Scene Live. And take care. Talk to you soon.